Welcome to the CL Brown Show. I am your host, CL Brown, columnist with the Louisville Courier Journal. On this episode, a very special guest dear to my heart. We don't have Louisville playing a home game, playing any football this weekend. We don't have Kentucky playing an SEC foe. They have Eastern Michigan at home on Saturday. So I thought with the U.S. Open just wrapping up, it would be a good time to have on my mother, Carolyn Archie, who has a storied tennis career for a non-professional. And so you will get to hear all the details of that because our interview ran a little long. We're going to skip over CL sounds off and drop right into the interview. And now, welcoming to the show, my favorite guest of all time. This is my mother, Carolyn Archie. Mommy, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Okay, so the U.S. Open just got finished, and first of all, did you have a favorite in that tournament? For men's or women's, who was your favorite?
Of course, CoCo Gauff was my
okay.
very favorite.
Yes.
I like Osaka.
What about the men's side?
Taylor Townsend.
Taylor?
Yes, absolutely. With the men, Alcaraz. And also, I liked Sinner.
Okay.
The two who played in the finals.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But I enjoyed some of the others.
So
Telfo was one of my favorites, as long as he was in. And I just enjoyed a lot of the players, actually, because the competition was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I recognize that I've done a lot of interviews over the years, but I've never actually interviewed you about your tennis career. I mean, I kind of just knew the different highlights of it, but I felt like I would be negligent as a reporter, as a journalist, if we didn't sit down and document your history and what you did.
Oh, okay.
So let's start. I feel like there's so much to cover that I don't want to spend too much time on a lot of things. There is obviously I do want to talk about you teaming with Dr. Johnson and Arthur Ashe and being in that same camp together. But let's just start with the basics of how you got started in tennis in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Yes, okay. Well, I grew up the third oldest of 9 children, and we lived right across the street from an elementary school. And of course, there was the playground, and they had tennis courts, ball field, and all of that. So during the summer months, of course, our parents would just have us go on the playground and just play and exercise and just have fun. So there was also a recreation center that was located not too far from us. So one of the director of the recreation center, which was Mr. Roscoe Anderson, during the summer he would have us involved in a lot of different activities. So we played whatever sport he decided he wanted to involve us in, we would participate. So one of the things that I, along with several of my siblings, just kind of got stuck with the tennis. He provided the balls and the rackets for us, and he started teaching us how to play. Well, that's just what stuck with me, and I became pretty good at it.
I would say, let's talk about how good you became. Now, I had to write down some of this stuff. I know. I had to write down some of this stuff. 1957, 12 to 15-year-old age girls singles champion from the American Tennis Association Southeastern Regionals or Southeastern Junior Nationals. 1957, 12 to 15-year-old junior national champ. So basically you went from a regional to the nationals. You won the nationals. 1958, junior champion. 1959, also junior champion. from the 15 to 18 age range, 1959, that's when you were runner-up in the nationals. From 1960, the doubles national champion and the Southeastern ATA Junior Nationals champion. So if you had this resume in today's context, there would be conversations of you turning professional.
Absolutely would be.
So back then, though, what did you ever contemplate a career in tennis or pursuing tennis further?
Never thought about it as far as pursuing it as a career. I really didn't. I think that mostly I was just involved in being active, and I was, of course, very competitive. And because I enjoyed tennis the most, that's just the particular sport that I kind of stuck to and began to excel in. But with the help of um, Mr. Anderson. And of course, the challenges were my siblings, my brothers played, the two who were older than me, and I used to play against them, and that helped me, because I felt that if they could do it, so could I. And I tried to be better than they, which I ended up being eventually. But no, I didn't contemplate it as, I never thought of it as anything that I could do professionally.
Now, one huge thing that I'm leaving out is obviously during that time it was still Jim Crow was in place,
Yes.
and the ATA was just a organization for Black players.
Yes, it was.
Did you at the time? Did you ever want? You talk about being competitive. Did you ever want to play white players? Like, was it a I know Duke and North Carolina Central did this famous secret basketball game because they couldn't play each other, and they're both in Durham, and the guys got together and played in quiet. Like, did you ever want to play white players to kind of?
No, not necessarily, but I would have. I mean, had any young girl come out, I don't care what, uh, whether she was white or black, I would have played her just because I was competitive and wanted to play tennis. But no, at that time, I was a very happy Black girl in the Black community. That's all that I knew at the time, of course. And so I never really considered or even thought about it that much.
Yeah.
No.
Well, let's fast forward to when you were discovered by Dr. Johnson. And first, if you could tell the listeners who, like, the stature of, I've heard his name for years, but who Dr. Johnson was at that time in relation to young and upcoming tennis players.
Okay, well, Dr. Robert Walter Johnson was a medical doctor who lived in Lynchburg, Virginia. During the summer, Dr. Johnson actually went around different states in the Southeast, especially, and he picked out, he chose different young juniors who looked like they had some potential with tennis. But I didn't know anything about Dr. Johnson until my first out of town tournament that Mr. Roscoe Anderson took me to, and that was in Durham, North Carolina. Well, it was a tournament in which Dr. Johnson had come and brought his team at that time of young junior players. And that's when I heard about him because, of course, Arthur Ashe was one of the young juniors in his, who came down with his team. So that was the first time that I kind of got a sense of who Dr. Johnson was. And of course, later I started knowing, learning more about him and what he was all about because of the late Ethel Gibson. So I was really impressed with that. But that was it.
So you mentioned your first out of town trip, and obviously you weren't part of any kind of tennis club machine that would go. It was just the independent playing tennis.
Yes.
So what was it? What was it like, kind of going from being unknown to being known, to being a player who was ranked nationally in the ATA, and just having your name out there?
Well, that actually happened over like a couple of um, times of my going to the tournaments out of town. And of course, again, I give Mr. Anderson credit for that. He just decided, well, you know, before that, I had been winning a lot of the local tournaments, you know, the city tournaments where we played others with other recreation centers. That was our competition there. And so that particular time, he decided to take a few of us young players to um, the ATA tournament in Durham, North Carolina. Um, and that's when I again met actually Dr. Johnson and some of his players. And of course, again, Arthur Ashe was one of the young juniors. Arthur and I were in the same age category. Um, so that particular summer, when I played, I was getting ready to play one match, and I looked up, and someone was calling me to the side prior to my match, and it happened to have been my elementary school principal, who was there at the college for a principal's workshop or something. But when he called me over, he told me he was challenging me to win this match. And he told me that if I won the match, that when I got back to Winston-Salem, that I could go and pick out my own racket, have it strung, and it would be mine. Well, up to that point, I always used the rackets of the that Mr. Anderson would provide from the recreation center. So I never had owned a racket in my life. So that was very exciting to me. So that was my incentive to get out there and really play very hard. And I won my match. And it just happened to have been a player who was one of Dr. Johnson's proteges. So, you know, I was very excited about that.
Yeah.
Mainly not necessarily because I had won, but because I was going to get a racket of my own, which I did once I got back home.
So, what year was it? 1959 that you and Arthur Ashe were both the singles champions at the same time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
In 1959, I had returned to Durham again and that was a Southeastern Junior National Tournament at that time, and it was sponsored by the ATA Association. And of course, again, Arthur and I were in the same age category. So that particular year, I won the girls in the what was the 15 to 18 category, and he won the boys. So that's how we got connected. That was also the year that after I won that particular event, Dr. Johnson invited me to join his junior team at his home in Lynchburg, Virginia for the summer, the remaining of the summer.
So what was it like? Like, did you automatically take that as a prestigious honor when Dr. Johnson extended you that invite? Was there any hesitation? Were you excited? What do you remember about how you reacted to that?
I don't remember being so excited. I was happy to go out of town again. I mean, you know, I think
That
my
was big
parents.
time, though.
Well, I didn't realize how big time it was. I
Mm.
really didn't. I just knew that it was going to be involved in tennis, and I thought, okay, that would be cool. You know, I will be out of town, and I knew that he did special training for, and I wanted to learn a little bit more and get a little better at the game. And so, yeah, I think my parents were more excited than me because they obviously probably understood a little bit more.
Yeah. What was the training like?
Well, it was
Like how
intensive
intense?
training. It was definitely intensive. It was just a certain number of juniors at the time, and we actually stayed at his home. We had specific responsibilities though, but it was a strict schedule. We got up early in the morning. We did different activities, some of the running and uh, workouts and all of that. We sometimes watch videos. Sometimes Dr. Johnson would have us out on his tennis courts, which was located at his home, and he would teach us. We would focus on certain things that we were practicing, and of course, so all week it was intensive tennis practices and different techniques and exercises and all of that. Yeah.
What would you mentioned having responsibilities like chores around the
Yeah,
house, like taking
some
care of
church, yes.
dishes?
Yeah, we had to. Now, he did have a person who, monitored the house and did basic stuff, but we were responsible for our own taking care of what we did ourselves. We did sometimes took turns. Sometimes we took turns in washing the dishes or cleaning up or being sure that after we ate, we put things in place and that kind of thing.
Now, what did you do in your downtime?
Our downtime, we were allowed maybe up to maybe an hour a day or something to just kind of be free to play music and do different things, and that's when we just kind of had fun. Sometimes we played other games and something away from tennis.
So
but we did dance and learn how to dance, and that's when I thought I was teaching Arthur one time how to two-step.
So what's the story behind that? Do you remember like what artists or what songs y'all were playing?
I don't remember I don't remember specifically the songs actually. I just remember us having some downtown time and playing music, and everybody doing their own little thing with dancing and trying to teach each other. And so
Arthur Ashe couldn't dance.
I can't say that he couldn't dance, but I call and because I wasn't the best dancer myself, but just having fun. And I remember teaching him like a simple two-step dance at the time, and we just had a lot of fun, because he was kind of quiet, and I wouldn't say shy, but kind of quiet. So yeah, and I myself am kind of quiet myself, but the two of us I just recall us having fun.
Did anybody in that camp talk about maybe Wimbledon or talk about dreams of playing, on a larger stage and professionally?
No, but we all knew that at that time we got the sense that Arthur was the better player of all of us anyway, among us. And we knew that also, we knew that Dr. Johnson was trying to get Arthur into other tournaments that were, for example,
integrated?
Arthur, yes, they weren't integrated at the time.
They weren't still.
No. But he knew that there were other tournaments, I think the USTA sponsored, but Arthur was from Richmond, Virginia himself. And there were nice big tournaments that were being held in Richmond that would not allow Arthur to enter their tournament for a while. But we knew that Dr. Johnson was really focused on getting Arthur out there a little bit more. But as far as the others that I was there with, I don't remember us even talking about potentially getting, into the pros and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
we were just enjoying tennis as it was. And during the week, we did the intensive training, but on weekends, Dr. Johnson always had us traveling up and down the East Coast, Southeast Coast, playing in different tournaments, and that was exciting for us. We enjoyed that part.
And what was that travel like? Like well, people my age, you hear of the Green Book, and when you're traveling back then, knowing what hotels to stay at because these places would accept black patrons and restaurants and that kind of thing.
No, I didn't know what the Green Book was at the time. What we did, we traveled in cars, individual cars. There was one young lady who played with us and trained with us, but she also was our chaperone, the girls' chaperone, and we had the men had the same. The young boys had a chaperone also. So we traveled separately to our destinations, but we all went to the same events. And then when we got there, the families, the other tennis families, housed us, and that's where we stayed, during the time that we were there. It was usually on weekends, yeah.
So would you say you guys just kind of built up your own black tennis community basically throughout the region? Like knowing this family has, these players play there. Like if anybody came to Winston-Salem, they know the Archies played.
I think part of that was, the ATA actually had members of the ATA at that time who lived in the different states where we traveled. And so there were different clubs. For example, Winston-Salem actually had a sportsman club. So had we played here, the sportsman club would have been probably responsible for being sure, for hosting the guests and seeing to it that the players had places to live.
Yeah.
Or to stay, rather.
Okay, so when, well, first, let me pull out a picture. It is from Arthur Ashe's autobiography, Vintage Ashe. And the picture, we got it blown up a little bit. I'm assuming that's from 1959.
Yeah.
These are pictures for the YouTubers of you and Arthur Ashe with your championship trophies.
Yeah.
When you see this, what comes to mind? What do you think about?
Well, first of all, I just think about the fun times that we did have at Dr. Johnson's. And secondly, I think, wow, had I known then what I know now, oh my gosh.
I could have a trust fund.
Absolutely, absolutely. But at that time, that was not I think I was more interested in just playing and having fun and increasing my game, getting better, but not doing. I did not even think of it as something that I would do for a life sport.
So after that camp, summer of 1959, of being in Dr. Johnson's, from there, where did your tennis path take you? Did you scale back at that point?
I definitely scaled back because after that full summer of all tennis and playing every weekend in different tournaments, and when I got back home, I didn't want to see another tennis racket for a while. But also, that was the time that I had just graduated from high school and was getting ready to go into college. And I had chosen to go into nursing. And so I knew that I would not have a lot of extra time to play at that time. I needed to concentrate on my nursing. So that's what I did. So for a long time after that, I did not play tennis at all. But later on, after I had become a nurse and had started my family, and I decided to pick up the tennis racket again and started playing as a mother and a nurse
At the
and all
time
that.
you were in college, did Winston-Salem State, did they have a
They
tennis
did not
program?
have they did not have a um, tennis program period, but the late Gaines, Coach Gaines, did talk to me when I first went because he knew about me, and he was going to start a
Oh
girls
wow.
tennis, a ladies tennis,
Yeah,
but I wasn't going to have time for that at that time. I didn't feel that I could.
yeah.
So
Just for a reference point, that is Paducah's own Clarence Big House Game, famed Hall of Fame
yeah,
basketball coach at Winston-Salem State.
yes, and he was athletic director also at that
Okay,
time. Yeah.
okay. Well, we could talk for a long time, but I gonna have to wrap it up here.
Okay.
Was there anything you wanted to add about how come you didn't make me play tennis?
Well,
Like make me. I know you kind of like
I did
we
take you
all
to the
kind of
courts all the
yes,
time
but
when I had all of you, all of my children. I tried to put tennis rackets in your hands, but you weren't interested. You wanted to play basketball and football and all that. So I really wanted you to do what I felt you wanted to do. So I wasn't going to try to make you do that. But it just so happens that years later, a couple of you who I didn't make play ended up playing, and she plays like Carol, your sister, is very involved in tennis today, and the rest of you kind of sit back and wish that you had done more. But you had the opportunity, and you still do, because tennis is a lifelong
yeah,
sport. Okay, so it's always something that you
you
can
know if
pick
my
up
knees will
and
hold up
enjoy.
now.
You're right. You may have waited too late for that.
I probably did.
No, not really, but anyway, yeah.
All right.
So no,
Well,
I didn't want to try to make you do it, but you were at the tennis courts waiting for me to finish
I
my
remember I
matches,
was
so
hanging
you
out
knew
there.
about it.
Yeah, yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining
Okay.
me, Ma.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
See, it wasn't as bad as you thought.
No.
And now it's time for pickup lines. I went 2-2-1 last week, pushed on Louisville and James Madison, lost on Kentucky Ole Miss. That last field goal that Lane Kiffin referenced after the game killed me. Lost on SMU Baylor, another game I probably should have won, but won on Oklahoma over Michigan and won on Illinois and Duke. So that brings me to 4-5-1 overall after a 2-2-1 week. Let's get better this week. Let's start with Kentucky, 23.5-point favorite against Eastern Michigan. Kind of wavered on this because it doesn't seem like Kentucky covers that big number against anybody, but I'm not sure Eastern Michigan has enough offense to put up much of a resistance to that spread. So I'm going to take Kentucky, lay the points. Georgia and Tennessee, big SEC showdown. Georgia is a 3.5-point favorite. I feel like they have basically owned Tennessee and in this series, and I think people might be. There was some kind of crazy weather delay involved with Georgia's game last week, and I think that may have taken away some of their steam and may have made people think they weren't playing as well as they could. But we're going to see how well those dogs play on Saturday. Take the dogs, lay the points. Moving on to Notre Dame at home against Texas A&M. The Irish are a 7-point favorite. Again, I think I hate to go with all the favorites, but I just think Notre Dame and seeing them in that game against Miami in the opener, seeing how CJ Clark came on late in that game as a first-time starter on the road. You could tell maybe he's a little shaky at the start, but he finished strong. And I think the Irish at home are going to be a tough out. The defense is still stout. I think they shut down Marcel Reed and the Aggies. Clemson, a big ACC showdown. Clemson, 3.5-point favorite at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech always seems to play these ranked teams, these big marquee games well. But I think people also, this might be my last time taking Clemson, but I think people are off the Clemson bandwagon. It was 16, they were down 16-0 to Troy last week before coming back to win 27-16. I think now is the time to buy that Clemson stock again, because in the ACC race, they cannot be counted out. So take Clemson, lay the points. And last, we have Miami, a 17-point favorite against South Florida. It seems like the South Florida disrespect is continuing. I usually like this spot when a team just gets ranked for the first time, like USF has after winning in the swamp last week, beating Florida. But 17 is 17 is a lot, and I think USF has proven with their week 1 win against Boise State and going into the swamp last week that they're going to be a tough out. I still expect Miami to win the game, but I will take the 17 points for the road underdog. That'll do it for pickup lines, and that will do it for another episode of the CL Brown Show. Thank you for tuning in. Please click on those follow buttons to subscribe to the show. Please leave a 5-star review and a nice comment, because we need more love in this world. Otherwise, just sit back, relax. There'll be a new episode drop on Wednesday, and you can always find my columns at courier-journal.com. Thank you for tuning in.